The math was simple. An entire army. One man. This is not a battle. This is not a siege. This is not even a military operation in any meaningful sense of the word. When a modern army, trained, equipped, supplied, and supported by the full institutional weight of one of the greatest military powers in human history, surrounds a single human being in the mountains and tells him to come out with his hands up, there is only one possible outcome. The man comes out. This is not cowardice. This is not weakness. This is arithmetic. An army against one is not a fight. It is a formality. It is the moment before the inevitable, the pause before a conclusion that every military commander, every strategist, every rational human being who has ever studied the application of force understands completely. You do not fight an entire army. You survive it. You calculate the odds, you accept the reality, you walk out into the morning air with your hands raised, and you live to fight another day. The British Army in the winter of 1957 understood this perfectly. They had been hunting this man for 2 years. They had chased him through forests and ravines, through villages and mountain passes, through terrain that seemed designed specifically to make pursuit impossible. They had come close before and lost him. They had received intelligence before and acted on it too slowly. They had, in short, spent 2 years learning that this particular man was extraordinarily difficult to catch. But now they had him. A cordon of hundreds stretching across the mountains, closing inward like a fist, with dozens of elite soldiers positioned directly at the entrance to his cave. Helicopters, radio communications, the full apparatus of a modern military operation, focused on a single point in the landscape. The order went out. Surrender. Come out. It is over. The man inside heard the order. He had a different answer. His name was Grigoris Axendu, and on the 3rd of March, 1957, he taught an entire British army something that no military academy had ever put in their curriculum. That arithmetic means nothing when the man doing the counting has already decided he would rather die than give you the satisfaction of being right. To understand what happens on that mountain, you first need to understand who this man is. He is born on February 22nd, 1928, in Lissi, a small village in the Famagusta district of Cyprus, a place of flat agricultural land, orange groves, and the particular quietness of rural life in the eastern Mediterranean. His father is Pieris Axendu, a farmer. His world growing up is defined by the rhythms of the land, the Orthodox Church, and something else, something that runs through every Greek Cypriot household like an undercurrent beneath the surface of ordinary life. The belief that this island does not belong to the people governing it. Cyprus has been under British administration since 1878. For the Greek Cypriots, who make up roughly 80% of the island's population, this is not an abstract political grievance. It is a daily reality. The administrators are British. The senior police officers are British. The laws are British. The flag flying over government buildings is British. And yet the language in the streets is Greek. The churches are Orthodox. The names of the villages are Greek. The stories the grandparents tell are Greek. The history that every child absorbs from the moment they are old enough to understand is the history of a people who have been Greek for 3,000 years and who cannot understand in any fundamental way why they are governed by men from London. The word for what they want is union with Greece. It is not a new idea. It is not a radical idea. It is for most Greek Cypriots simply the logical conclusion of everything they are. Axendu grows up with this in his bones. He is a serious young man, disciplined, athletic. he completes his military service in the Greek army, crossing to the mainland, serving in the Kilkis region, learning the fundamentals of soldiering from an institution with a long and distinguished tradition of exactly the kind of unconventional warfare that the mountains of Cyprus are about to demand. He returns to Cyprus in the early 1950s. The island is changing, or rather, the island's patience is ending. The diplomatic efforts to bring the question of self-determination before the United Nations have produced nothing. The British position is unchanged. The answer from London remains what it has always been. On July 28, 1954, Minister of State for Colonial Affairs Henry Hopkinson stands in the House of Commons and delivers that answer with unusual clarity. Cyprus, he tells Parliament, is one of those territories that can never expect to be granted full independence. Never. Not now. Not in 50 years. Not ever. The word he uses is never. In the mountains and villages of Cyprus, a different kind of answer is being prepared. The resistance is built in cells, small units, each isolated from the others, each knowing only what it needs to know to carry out its specific function. The commander is a former Greek army officer operating under a code name drawn from Byzantine legend, Digenis. He has been planning this for years. He has studied the terrain. He has identified the targets. He has built the network. Axendu joins. He is not a peripheral figure, not a foot soldier in the conventional sense. He is recognized immediately as something rarer, a natural guerrilla commander, someone who understands instinctively how to use terrain, how to move without being seen, how to strike and disappear before the response can organize itself. He becomes second in command, Digenis's most trusted field officer, the man responsible for the Makiras region, the mountainous area in the central part of the island, dominated by an ancient monastery and the dense pine forests that surround it. This is his territory. He learns it the way a man learns his own house, every path, every ravine, every ridgeline, every position that offers cover, and every position that offers a line of sight. He goes by many names inside the resistance: Zidros, Ias, Aris, Rigas, Zotos, Antaios. Each codename a different layer of protection, a different identity for a different context, a different name on the lips of different cells who know him only as a voice and a reputation. The British spend months trying to find him. They cannot. He moves through the mountains like something that belongs to them, appearing here, striking there, vanishing before the pursuit can close. His network of contacts in the villages below provides intelligence, food, shelter, warning. When British patrols approach, word travels ahead of them through systems the soldiers cannot see or intercept. By the time boots hit the ground where he was, he is already somewhere else. He becomes a legend, not through a single dramatic action, but through the accumulation of a presence that seems impossible to pin down. The villages know his name. The British know his name. His face appears on wanted posters. A reward is offered for information leading to his capture. Nobody claims it. By 1956, the British are applying maximum pressure across the island. The resistance's political leader has been deported to the Seychelles. Detention camps are filling with men swept up in mass operations. The noose, as the British see it, is tightening. And yet Axendu is still in the mountains, still moving, still striking, still invisible. The winter of 1956 into 1957 is brutal. The pine forests of the Central Range drop below freezing at night. The paths are icy and treacherous. The fighters sheltering in hideouts carved into the rock are cold in a way that no amount of preparation fully accounts for. But they are still there. By early 1957, British intelligence has been building a picture of his movements for months. Informers, aerial reconnaissance, intercepted communications, the slow, painstaking accumulation of fragments that intelligence work produces, each piece individually meaningless, collectively beginning to point towards something specific, a location, a cave hideout, a point in the mountains where one man is sheltering with a small group of comrades, Antonis Papadopoulos, Andreas Stylianou, Avgustis Evstathiou, and Phidias Simeonides. The decision is made at the highest levels of British military command in Cyprus. This time, they will not send a patrol. They will not send a company of soldiers. They will send a cordon of hundreds across the entire mountain range, with dozens of elite soldiers from the Duke of Wellington's regiment positioned directly at the cave. Think about what that commitment tells you. Not about the military situation, but about the man. You do not deploy an operation of this scale as a standard security precaution. You deploy it because you know from 2 years of trying and failing exactly what you are dealing with. On the night of March 2nd, 1957, the operation begins. Units move silently into position across the mountain range, establishing a cordon that covers every possible exit route before dawn, reveals the net to anyone inside. By morning, the cordon is complete. Inside the cave, Axendu knows, March 3rd, 1957, before dawn. The mountains are cold and completely still. The pine forests stand in silence around the cave, a hideout built into the terrain, invisible from above, accessible only through paths that he knows, and the British are only now beginning to map. He has with him 4 comrades, men who have shared these mountains with him through the winter, the cold, the hunger, the constant vigilance of men who know that every morning might be the morning the net finally closes. This is that morning. He can hear them. Not individual voices, not specific sounds, but the presence of a disciplined force holding its position in the forest. The particular silence that is not silence at all, but the sound of organized military power waiting for the order to move. He has spent enough nights in these mountains listening to what the darkness contains to know exactly what that sound means. The British send the demand. Come out, surrender. You are surrounded. There is no way out. This does not have to end in your death. He considers this offer. Then he picks up his Sten gun. The first burst of fire cracks through the morning air, and the elite soldiers at the cave entrance respond with immediate, controlled fire. Not the chaotic exchange of men who have been surprised, but the professional response of soldiers who have been waiting for exactly this moment. The exchange is fierce and fast. In the initial skirmish, Axendu kills a corporal of the Duke of Wellington's regiment. A British soldier, trained and prepared, dies in the opening moments of contact with one man in a cave. Think about what that tells you about what the British are dealing with. The 4 comrades, recognizing what is coming, understanding the mathematics of their situation with the clear eyes of men who have been in the mountains long enough to know when a position cannot be held, manage to slip out through the cordon in the chaos of the initial exchange. How exactly they escape through a cordon designed specifically to prevent escape is a detail that will be debated for years, but they escape. Axendu does not try to escape. He is alone now, one man, in a cave, with his Sten gun and whatever ammunition remains from a winter of careful rationing. And outside, dozens of elite soldiers, hundreds more closing the ring across the mountains, helicopters, radios, the full weight of the British military machine focused on this single point in the landscape. The British try grenades first. They toss them into the cave entrance. The concussive blasts designed to disorient, to wound, to drive a man out into the open where he can be taken. He does not come out. They try tear gas, canisters thrown into the confined space of the cave, the chemical irritant designed to make the air inside impossible to breathe, to force any living thing toward fresh air and surrender. He does not come out. He keeps firing. Every burst from the Sten gun tells the British something they do not want to know. He is still in there. He is still functional. He is still choosing, with every round he fires, the same answer he gave when they first sent the demand. Minutes pass. The ammunition that has kept him through the winter, each round treated as the finite resource it is when there is no supply line, is going. He knows this. Every trigger pull brings him closer to a number he already knows, 0. But before that number arrives, the British make a decision. They bring out the petrol, canisters of fuel, carried up to the cave entrance by soldiers who understand what they are being asked to do and do it anyway because the orders are clear and the man inside has killed one of their own and will not come out, and there is no other option left that anyone can identify. They pour the petrol into the cave. Think about that moment with the full weight it deserves. They are not bombing a bunker from the air. They are not shelling a fortified position from a distance. They are standing at the entrance of a cave on a mountainside in Cyprus and pouring fuel into the space where a man is sheltering. And then they ignite it. The fire takes immediately. The confined space of the cave becomes an inferno. Heat and flame and smoke in an enclosed rock chamber from which there is no exit that does not run directly past the soldiers waiting outside. And from inside the fire, before the smoke takes his voice, before the heat becomes everything, a voice, 2 words, ancient words, words that were shouted on a different mountain, in a different century, by 300 Spartans who looked at an army that outnumbered them beyond counting and gave the only answer that men who have decided what they are willing to die for can give. Molon Labe, come and take me, not in despair, not in agony, in defiance, pure, absolute, unbroken defiance, the voice of a man who has been given every opportunity to choose differently and has chosen the same thing every single time and is choosing it now, at the end, in the fire, with the last breath available to him for words. Come and take me. The soldiers outside hear it. They will remember it for the rest of their lives. Grigoris Axendu dies in the fire on March 3, 1957. He is 29 years old. The Sten gun is still in his hands. You've probably never heard this story before. That's the problem. While the same battles get told over and over, moments like this sit forgotten. If you want to keep discovering what's been hidden, subscribe. We've got dozens more stories waiting. The British believe March 3, 1957 is a victory. In the narrow operational sense, a wanted commander neutralized, a hideout destroyed, an intelligence operation successfully concluded, they are correct. The most elusive resistance field commander in the Central Mountains is gone. The network he spent 2 years building will now have to reorganize without him. What they do not understand is what his death does to Cyprus. The news travels from village to village with the speed that important news always travels in small, tightly connected communities. He is dead. They found him. They surrounded him with hundreds of soldiers. He killed one of them. They tried grenades. He kept fighting. They tried tear gas. He kept fighting. They poured petrol into the cave and set it on fire. And from inside the fire, he shouted Molon Labe, "Come and take me." In the villages, in the churches, in the kitchens, where women are doing the work that keeps families alive, while their men are in the mountains or in detention camps. The story lands with a force that no military operation ever intended to generate. This is not the narrative of a man who was cornered and killed. This is the narrative of a man who was given every opportunity to live and chose, consciously, deliberately, with full understanding of what his choice meant, to die on his own terms. The words he shouted connect his death to something 3,000 years old. Molon Labe was the answer of Leonidas at Thermopylae when the Persian emperor demanded that the Spartans lay down their weapons. Come and take them. Every Greek schoolchild knows those words. Every Greek Cypriot who hears what he shouted in that cave understands instantly what he was saying, not just to the British soldiers outside, but to history itself. I am part of something that does not end with me. The resistance does not collapse after March 3rd, 1957. It intensifies. The population that has been watching and calculating and wondering whether the price being paid is worth what might be achieved finds in the death of one man on a mountain something that resolves the calculation in a way that no political argument ever could. The British, watching this reaction, begin to understand something they have been slow to grasp throughout the entire campaign. They are not fighting a military organization. They are fighting an idea. And the terrible quality of ideas, as opposed to armies, as opposed to commanders, as opposed to men in caves, is that you cannot burn them. You cannot pour petrol on an idea and ignite it. In the months that follow, international pressure on the British position in Cyprus increases from every direction. The United Nations, the newly independent nations watching from Africa and Asia. The uncomfortable questions from American allies about what exactly Britain is defending and at what cost. The mathematics are changing, not the mathematics of soldiers and weapons. Britain still has overwhelming superiority there, the mathematics of will, of sustainability, of the question that every colonial power eventually has to answer: how long and at what price are we willing to do this? The answer, as 1957 becomes 1958 and 1958 moves toward 1959, becomes clear. Not much longer. On August 16th, 1960, Cyprus becomes an independent republic. The British flag comes down over Government House in Nicosia. The never that Henry Hopkinson spoke in the House of Commons becomes a date in the history books. Axendu does not live to see it. But the vote that counted, the vote he cast in that cave on March 3rd, 1957, with the only currency that remained available to him, helped make it happen. Grigoris Axendu was 29 years old when he died. He had been born in a farming village in the eastern part of the island. He had grown up in the ordinary world of rural Cyprus, the orange groves, the Orthodox Church, the Greek language, the culture of a people who had been themselves for 3,000 years. He had done his military service. He had come home. He had joined the resistance because it was not, to him, a political choice, but the only possible response to an intolerable situation. He spent 2 years in the mountains. He died in them. The British, understanding what a public funeral would do, understanding that the death of this particular man in these particular circumstances would produce exactly the kind of mass outpouring of grief and anger and nationalist sentiment that they cannot afford, make a decision about where to bury him. They bury him inside a prison, the imprisoned graves, Phylakismena Minimata, inside the walls of the central jail of Nicosia, alongside 12 other fighters of the resistance, 9 of whom were hanged by the British during the emergency. The graves are placed inside a prison to keep the people outside, to prevent the funeral from becoming a demonstration, to contain, behind walls and locked gates, the grief of a population that has just lost one of its most celebrated fighters. The British believe that walls can contain what happened in that cave. They are wrong about this too. There is a monastery in the mountains of Cyprus today. In its grounds, there is a monument to the man who died in the forests nearby. People come to it, not because his body is there. It is not. It is in the imprisoned graves in Nicosia, where the British placed it, but because the place itself is part of the story. The mountain, the forest, the path that leads to where the cave was. Every year, on the 3rd of March, ceremonies are held. In Nicosia, at the imprisoned graves, in the mountains, at the monastery, in schools across Cyprus, where children learn the story of the man who shouted Molon Labe from inside a burning cave rather than walk out with his hands raised. He is not a forgotten figure in Cyprus. His face appears on stamps. His name is on streets. His story is taught in classrooms. His words, those 2 ancient words shouted in a modern fire, are part of the living memory of a people who have not forgotten what was paid for the world they inherited. Outside Cyprus, outside the Greek world, his name is almost entirely unknown. This is the problem that this channel exists to solve. One man, a cave in the mountains, an entire army outside, grenades that did not move him, tear gas that did not break him, fire that did not silence him, not until the very last moment, and even then, not before he said what he needed to say. Molon Labe, come and take me. 3,000 years of defiance, summoned in a burning cave on a Mediterranean island in 1957 by a 29-year-old man from a farming village who decided that some things are worth more than survival. He was right. Every like on this video keeps this story alive for the next generation. If it moved you, click it. This channel exists because these men deserve better than dusty archives and forgotten files. If you believe their courage matters, subscribe and help us keep digging. Where are you watching from? Comment your city or country. Better yet, what's a forgotten story from your nation's history that needs to be told? We might cover it next.